Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, joined as always by Thomas. And it's time for our top 10 of the year. Now, you may be saying,
It's
it's February.
well,
Yes, it is. One, we were busy. I went to Sundance. School started. All of the things. Also,
yeah,
we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to actually watch all the movies that we wanted to. Obviously, we're never going to be able to watch
no,
like
exactly.
everything. Like,
Yeah,
but that's okay. I mean, like, where
yeah.
there can be some things that were your favorites that we didn't even see, but we've each seen quite a bit. We've each seen close to 200 movies, I think. And we just want
I think
to.
I'm a little less on that end. I'm more like 100, but still,
Okay,
I've seen
okay.
everything I want to see really.
Yes,
And
we
there's
crossed
there's a
off
couple stuff I'm missing, but I'm
everything.
comfortable with what my list
Yeah,
is looking like.
we
So
crossed everything off our lists that we really wanted to see.
yeah.
So okay, we'll start with honorable mentions. All right, Thomas, want to start us off?
Okay, so some of my honorable mentions. I mean, Trevor's seen a lot more. He's probably going to go for a lot more honorable mentions. So I'm just going to talk about ones that were really quite close to getting in, but just missing. So two Best Picture nominees: Woman Talking and Tar. I really did love both of them. Woman Talking probably more so, but it did just miss out. My favorite animated film of the year, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, also pretty close to getting in there. The Fablemans I rewatched and loved it even more. Second time, I know Trevor not as big a fan of the Fablemans, but it was actually decently close to getting in. My favourite doc of the year, Senior, was another one that was also fairly close. And then the two that just missed out, 11 and 12, were Bros, which I thought was just a great comedy. Probably the funniest film of the year, maybe. And then The Menu as well, which I just thought was an absolutely great sort of dark comedy and good thriller as well. So those are my sort of honourable mentions.
All right. As you alluded to, I've seen a lot more, and I'm going to go through a lot more honorable mentions, but I'll try to make it fast. Um, okay, here we go. The Fallout, great performance by Jenna Ortega, really, really good. The Quiet Girl, we'll be talking about this one later.
We will be.
Very, very good. Vortex, I absolutely loved. Senior, great documentary. Marcel Shoes On, as you mentioned, great animated film. White Noise was divisive, but I loved it. All the Beauty and Bloodshed, fantastic documentary, my second favorite of the year. The Eternal Daughter, really great movie by Joanna Hogg. After Young, just fantastic work by Colin Farrell. Great year for him. Crime to the Future, I love some Cronenberg. Mad God, my favorite animated movie of the year. My God, wow. Triangle of Sadness, still much fun. Still great, great class satire. The Novelist's film, really beautifully written, as is Joyland, Pakistan Submission. Great, great, great movie. Moon Age Daydream, my favorite documentary of the year. Just like eccentric, bold, vibrant, really, really fantastic. Return to Seoul, really well structured screenplay. I know some people had some problems with it. Great debut performance by Park Jae-min. Then the last two here, Neptune Frost, really weird, crazy sci-fi experimental musical to come out of Africa. Really, really cool. And Bones and All, which I think we'll also be talking about later.
We
Just
will be.
barely
Yeah.
missed my top 10, but like Luca Guadagnino, he's got it. He's got it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
those are my honorable mentions.
Also, Petite Maman as well, which I forgot.
Yes. So
Sort of a 2021 film. It's debatable whether it came out last year, 2 years ago, whatever. If it was 2022, it would be on my top 10. But
same.
it's sort of
Same
yeah,
for same goes for Memoria. Those two movies, Petite Maman and Memoria, debatable whether they're 2022 or 2021. We counted them as 2021, but I know for both of us, Petite Maman would definitely be on our lists, and
yeah.
Memoria would also be on mine, probably.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Number 10, kick us off.
Do you want me to start? Well,
Sure.
so this one, you might have been surprised it missed my honorable mentions. That's because it actually did end up making my 10. This was the film that, when I looked at all the films, it was one that really stuck with me. And that is, we talked about this on the channel, Triangle of Sadness.
Nice.
So yeah, I really, really adored this film. I think
Yeah.
cast commentary is excellent. You can check out the whole video on it. The performances as well are really, really solid. Like Dolly Dern, I mean, sad she missed the nomination. Obviously, I was happy Hong Chow made it, but
You
it's
see, she
still like,
cried after she missed the nomination.
yeah, sad,
Yeah, it's
sad.
so
But
sad.
yeah,
I did
it's
see that
also
one.
very funny. Screenplay was absolutely incredible. Like really just tight screenplay, well directed as well. Like to sort of the shaky camera that they use on a boat to mimic the
Yeah.
seasickness. You know, just very clever sort of clever class commentary. Lots to say, and it's also just a fun watch as well. As you mentioned, it is just an entertaining film that packs its themes. Like it's nuanced as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely worthy of a
Yeah,
spot.
obviously this made my honorable mentions. I really, really loved it. It was definitely close to my top 10. Definitely close. All right, my number 10. This is another one that like almost could have missed, and like earlier on in the year I had it lower, but it grew on me. It is Nope, Jordan Peele's film. The more I think about it, the more this just really, really works for me. Initially out of the theater, I thought it was like a bit disjointed, but I actually did a video analyzing the themes, and through that video, I actually really came to love this film. I just think that the way that he works in all of these narratives is so masterfully done. All of the commentary on spectacle and on exploitation and on the exploitation of individuals for spectacle, I just think is really, really fantastic. And it really didn't connect with me the first time I watched it, but on rewatch and just thinking about it more, I just think that his vision is so clear, and the execution is like perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's so precise. He threads the needle through every single thing, to the point where like it's so deep on a thematic level to where you can really dive into it, and it also works just as well as a sci-fi thriller. And I think that that's like so impressive to be able to do. I'm just so impressed with what Jordan Peele was able to do. Like the cinematography is fantastic, the sound so good, the score I still listen to. Like it's really great film. KK Palmer robbed this season. Yeah,
Yeah.
love this movie.
It's also funny as well, which people sometimes forget. It
Yeah,
sort of gets
it's
lost in the
really
sci-fi
fun.
horror aspects, but there are some really funny moments. And
And he
yeah,
shuts the
another
door
one
and
I
just
really
puts out
do like.
Nope.
Yeah,
It's very good.
exactly.
It's very good.
Yeah, another one that was close. Yeah, would have I guess been on my honorable mentions, but
Yeah.
yeah. So my number 9 is, and this one has dropped a little. The first one, which I really just loved it, but I do think it is saying slightly less and is objectively a slightly weaker film, but it still is a lot of fun, and that's Cha Cha Real Smooth. So this
Nice.
one has great performances. Cooper Raiff, I don't know how he's so young and so mature as a filmmaker,
23.
but
Yeah.
exactly, like just the maturity you've seen in his direction and the screenplay and his acting performance as well is actually really quite impressive.
Yeah.
It's great to see. To go to Johnson as well, easy the best role I've seen her in. That's just easy.
Yeah.
And the film is just packed with like heart and humor. It's not the deepest thing in the world. You're not gonna like. There's not much to sort of analyze about it, but it was just a heartwarming film. And sometimes that's what I just like in films. You know, it's about, for me, sometimes I just like a good screenplay, a nice little story, good performances, and you've got me hooked. Like technically, not the most impressive thing, but I would highly encourage you to check it out because it's on Apple TV and it's just a heartfelt film. It's short, it breezes by, it's well paced, and yeah, it's just a nice breezy watch.
Yeah. I also really loved it. It didn't make my honorable mentions or anything, but as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a Thomas movie.
Yeah,
As
definitely.
soon as I watched it. I haven't actually rewatched it since Sundance, but it's definitely something that like I feel like I could just put on and enjoy. So
Exactly. It's sort of like a comfort film in a way.
yeah, absolutely. Very excited to see what he does next. My number 9 is EO, which is
Okay.
very much a Trevor movie.
Yes,
Um,
quite different, quut different.
quite different. I mean, my God, my man, Jerzy Skolimowski, a rare great old person. Sorry, but
Wow, it's harsh.
listen, Clint Eastwood, you need to back up your boots. Time's
Yeah.
over. Move over for the donkey man. Jerzy Skolimowski absolutely crushed it at age 84. Um, some of the most gorgeous cinematography of the year. The way that the sound design puts you in perspective of a donkey sounds absolutely ridiculous, but somehow it's executed so well, and it like the way that the camera is positioned and the angles that it chooses to shoot at, and it's so many like medium close-ups, and it somehow builds this empathetic bond with this donkey that's just kind of walking around. Like the donkey's not saying anything. It's not like we're getting internal monologues or anything, but it just, I'm so impressed by the filmmaking and how it put us in the perspective of this donkey. Like it's such a weirdly specific and absurd task, and it somehow worked really well. Yeah, I really loved this movie. Also surprised surprise Isabelle Huppert, always a good thing. And yeah, just some stunning cinematography, really great visual storytelling, and it's short. So
Yeah,
like
yeah. Personally, wasn't as much of a fan of it. I mean, I did like it still. It's a very
yeah,
impressive film, but again, I can definitely see why this is on your
it's
top 10.
very much the difference between a Trevor movie and a Thomas movie.
Exactly, exactly.
EO and Cha Cha. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, my number 8 is Bones and all. So I love Guadagnino as a director. I
I
just
love
love
him.
the subtlety
Yeah.
he puts into films, and they just all feel so real. And I tend to prefer, like, 9 times out of 10, realism over absurd. And like, just the way he captures realism is just, like, very, very impressive to me. The performances here are great. Like, Mark Rylance, if the film was entirely going to his sort of tone, I don't think it would have worked. But the fact that he is sort of just this oddball sort of thing on the side, I do think it's just really quite funny in a way, whilst also being very, like, tense and thrilling. Because it does work great to the horror sort of thriller as well as the sort of drama. And obviously Taylor Russell, great. Timothée Chalamet, when is he not great? Let's
Yeah.
be honest. And the score as well is definitely one to mention. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, like, this is easily one of the best scores I've heard from them. I mean, up there with the Social Network. And what I really did love about this film was that was the central sort of metaphor of cannibalism. Like, it can mean sort of what you want it to mean. Like, if it could, like, it could be interpreted to be about drug abuse in America. It could be interpreted to be about sexuality, and it's all sort of ambiguous. And you, as a viewer, can therefore sort of impart your own thoughts and ideas onto the film. And I really love how that encourages you to sort of interact with it on a deeper level. And yeah, this is just, and also it has a real, very strong sense of location and time, which
Yeah.
I always find impressive with films. I really want to be sort of immersed into this time period, and I think this one does a great job of doing that. So yeah,
Felt very
definitely,
Malick in
definitely.
that sense. It felt very Malick in
Yeah,
that sense.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
yeah. Yeah. No, really love this. It very, very queer coded film. Very queer
Yeah,
coded film,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah.
Speaking of very queer coded movies, my number eight's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Listen,
Okay, wow, it
I
made it. It made it.
had a ridiculously fun time with this movie. I've seen it multiple times. I think I've seen it 4 times now. Um,
Wow.
I love it. I love it so much. Rachel Snott gives probably my second favorite supporting actress performance of the year, just behind
Wow. Okay.
one Stephanie Shu.
Yeah.
Some of her line deliveries in this are just absolutely fantastic. Your parents are upper middle class. Just
Yeah.
like line delivery of the year. I think that the way that it handles its ensemble is really, really well done because there's so many characters. Because spoilers, it's a horror movie. Characters die. But I still feel like it really develops each character so individually that you're able to have this kind of connection with every single character, even the ones who don't really last that long. Because it's able to work them into the script that every character is relevant even past their death in the film, which I think is just such a smartly written screenplay and also just really smartly directed in that sense. And it's a really, really well structured movie. I know some people were frustrated with the structure of it, and the without spoilers, the reveals, I guess, towards the end. But I think they work really, really well. I think the writing's fantastic. Some of the best like Gen Z like writing maybe so far. I mean, I don't want to say ever because like
Yeah.
obviously it will progress, but like it's a
Exactly.
relatively new thing, and I think so far this is like maybe the best because it's meta in that it's like this isn't accurate to how Gen Z people necessarily talk, but it's accurate as a self-satire and a self-referential satire of how Gen Z people talk, which is how Gen Z people talk and see the world. It's a lot of self-referential satire. Everything it almost feels like it's a satire of itself. And this film captures that idea of Gen Z culture like perfectly in this like microcosm. So I really, really love this. Just some fantastic performances, fantastic screenplay, such a fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, really love this movie.
Definitely worthy of a place. Yeah. My number 7, and I don't know how much time we really want to spend talking about this since we've talked about it lots before. It's obviously Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I'll be honest, I've got problems with this film. I do. I'm not a massive fan of all of the sort of comedic elements. I do think they go a bit too far sometimes. Um, but that's probably my major problem. But even despite this, and also the first couple of acts, I do think it takes a bit of time to get into it. But even despite this, I think that is a testament to how strong that sort of third act and that emotional, like, sort of gut punch at the end is, because that is enough for me to just go, yeah, it's in my top 10. Because there's sort of relationship between Stephanie Shu and Michelle Yeoh is just an incredibly layered and deep relationship that feels real and is interesting to see play out, and the way that sort of information is sort of held from the viewer and sort of revealed at all the right times, and like even the way they interact with as rocks, it's just it's unique. It's something I haven't really seen before. And yeah, like I really loved that at the heart of the film, that it has that really core relationship, and that is what to me makes it a great film. Like, sure, it's inventive, it's unique, it's got all of that stuff, it's an interesting concept that you haven't seen before. To me, the reason this is a great film, and the reason this is a lot of people's like number ones in their top tens at least, is due to that core relationship between the two characters. I know you will have it somewhere else, so I'll let
We'll be
you
talking about this later.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm also very curious because we're going to be doing a Best Picture nominees rank soon, and I know you planned on rewatching it because like I'm
Yeah,
very curious
yeah,
to see how this plays in rewatch because like I really loved it the first time I watched it, but it was the second watch that like really sold it for me as like one of my
yeah,
favorite movies.
yeah.
So I'm very curious to see how it plays for you on rewatch. So because it's a bit overwhelming of a film.
Yeah, which
So
is another thing. Like, I've been a bit skeptical to rewatch it just because one reason I did love it was because of the sort of overwhelming nature. I thought it really helped
that's fair.
enhance the messages and themes of the film. So going into it, knowing a bit more about it, maybe it negates that sort of element to it a
I
bit. But I don't know. You said I'll love it on rewatch, so I'll take your word
I
for it.
think it plays better, but we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see. Number 7, you brought this up a bit earlier in your honorable mentions, but it's women talking.
yeah,
Um, I just think it's a fantastic screenplay. I talk about ensemble pieces with bodies, bodies, bodies. I think that this is like probably the ensemble piece of the year, just as far as developing distinct characters with distinct point of views and making everybody have these personal interpersonal conflicts that develop throughout the film and all relate to each other. Like, one conflict will happen and then that will affect another two people, and then it's just developing like snowball rolling down the hill, as in it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the conflicts expand outward and outward until it eventually evolves everybody. And it's really really well structured in how it builds up to that point, and how we learn information about these characters, and at what point information about these characters are revealed to slowly build out the tension as the screenplay expands its scope. Performances are obviously all fantastic. It's really hard to single out a favorite, but like Rooney Mara
yeah,
and
it
Ben
is.
Whishaw are probably my two favorites. But like that's probably why I
I
didn't
would
get
agree.
any
I'd agree.
awards attention as far as acting, because everybody's so good. Movie was too good. Um, so but yeah, just great work. I thought it was Polly directed it um to perfection. Honestly, just being able to handle and balance the tone between comedy and drama, and not make it feel overbearing or claustrophobic. But it's overbearing and claustrophobic just enough to the point we're able to get in the position of these women, but not to the point where it's like not enjoyable to watch, but it doesn't go too hard into the comedy to negate the dramatic points of the film. Just like a masterwork in pulling tone together. Yeah, really, really just makes everything work. Like I just like I mean, the only reason that there are things higher is it just movies that I enjoyed slightly more, but I honestly
Yeah,
have no complaints about women talking. Like, I just think it's like for everything that the film wanted to do, it does perfectly. So,
nice, nice. So my number 6 is one that a lot of people probably forgot about because it came up very early in the year, and that it was also my number 1 for a fair bit before I started
oh,
watching the sort of more Oscar condensing, The Northman. Now, from a lot of people's reaction to Top Gun Maverick, they said, "Oh, it got you, like you were riveted throughout. It really just got you pumped." That was the sort of same reaction I had to The Northman. I really, really, really respect Eggers as a filmmaker and how he can blend the sort of artsy style but make it a mainstream film in a way, and I really do respect that, and I do appreciate the fact that it will be opening up more artistic, more artsy films to a more general audience, hopefully. And the action as well, probably some of my favorite action of the year, just the sort of grit of it and the sort of just brutality of everything going on. It's just great to watch. Sure, the plot isn't the most inventive thing in the world. You do sort of know where it's going a lot of the time, especially if you are familiar with the story of Hamlet. But I do think the performances are there to sort of keep you going. Like Skarsgård is just great. He's not doing much verbally, like it's not talking, but it's all about the sort of reactions to the world. And it really helps to see the world through his eyes. And Nicole Kidman as well is great. Ethan Hawke is in for the limited time that he's in it. It's pretty good. Annie Taylor-Joy as well is excellent. But just it was that final sequence in the lava with the volcano, just the way it was shot, the sound design, the editing of all of it just put together, this like raw just sort of film, a really visceral experience. And yeah, after all, I was just pumped, like really, really pumped. And so not many films this year gave me that sort of tangible reaction, which, but The Northman did. The Northman did, so.
Yeah, I want to rewatch this because like I remember really enjoying it out of the theater. I just think because I don't think the plot is the strongest, I kind of forgotten about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's not really been in my memory, but I want to rewatch it because I do remember really liking a lot of the
Yeah.
technical
Because
aspects.
it's a very beautiful film. It's a
Yeah,
very beautiful film.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Also, you'll notice I think there'll be a distinct lack of Top Gun
Yes.
in our
Top
list.
Gun's not going to be on this. No, no.
Sorry, everybody. A distinct
Yeah.
lack of Top Gun. I think there will be a distinct lack of the Batman.
Yeah. Of Avatar as well,
Of
potentially.
Avatar, yeah. You know,
So imagine that being on this.
we're different.
Yeah, we're not like normal kids.
We're like the no. We're not one of the normal girls. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay. My number 6. So funny to put it is Decision to Leave by Park Chan-wook.
Well, there you go.
I'm pretentious. No, no, I really enjoyed this movie. Park Hae-il and especially Tang Wei. Some of the performances of the year. Tang Wei is like one of the best femme fatale performances I think of all time. It's so layered and like erotic, and also she just has this like underlying layer of just intelligence throughout the entire film. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like her presence just feels smart. I know that's
Mm.
really dumb, but like it's just such a really well written character. She always feels like she's a step ahead of everything while feeling like completely empathetic and open to everything that's going on. Just really, really loved her work in this, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to Park Chan Wook because my God, I mean,
Mm.
one of the
Yeah.
like the filmmakers of our time because like just like there's a shot with where he transitions from a going into a mirror and then a TV screen, and then we go out and then we go through glass, and then he somehow is while doing all of that, he shifts the focus from character to character as they're speaking, as we're moving through like mirrors and screens and then what's actually there. Like I genuinely don't understand how he did some of this stuff. It is some of the most impressive cinematography and like editing work of like the century so far. Like
100%. 100%.
it is masterful work, like masterful work. The screenplay is fantastic. The way that he incorporates metaphors with
Yeah, the
mountains and
water.
the
Yeah.
ocean and how that builds the connections between the characters, like Jesus Christ, dude! Like you did not have to go this hard, but he
Yeah.
did. He just did everything, and it's basically a perfect movie. Like it's
Yeah.
basically a perfect movie. Again,
Yeah.
we're getting to the point now where like
Again,
I don't have any complaints. It's just
no.
I enjoyed the other things slightly more, but like not even by that much. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
again, this is one that we will be talking about later because it
yeah,
does appear on my list as well. Obviously. Obviously. If you
yeah,
haven't seen
yeah.
it,
I mean, how could it not? The
yeah.
Oscars, like, so I don't know. Somebody needs
I
to go to
don't
jail.
know. I don't
Somebody
know.
needs to
Yeah.
go to jail because, like,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not normally a proponent of incarceration, but like in this in this instance, I am.
Yes.
Decision to Leave
It's
was
worthy.
the crime. It's a crime.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, my number 5, and this was one that surprised me because the first like hour, it didn't really like hook me.
Oh yeah,
And it was only until there was a certain moment that it just gripped me, and then the rest of the film was just sort of an emotional roller coaster till the end. And that is Mars One. So this is a Brazilian film, and quite small. Like the performances, no one's really that known in the cast. It's a sort of it's a small film, but definitely one I would encourage you to check out because there's just a moment in it when sort of all the storylines begin converging, and it's like if you see Uncut Gems, like the sort of stress of a lot of the moments, and that is what this filled me with, and I love that. Like obviously, some people might not want to have stress like that, stress-inducing scenes and elements to a film, but it really does work for me. And again, it's again gave me a quite visceral reaction that I just really love. All of the stuff it's saying about dreams and sort of parental sort of trying to impart their ideas onto you, I think is quite interesting. I did love the interest, like seeing the sort of dynamics between each individual family member, and I think every like character in that family all had an interesting dynamic with each other. So I really thought it was a very fleshed out family unit, and all the characters were therefore quite interesting to follow and watch. It did take a bit to get into it. As I said, I like at the beginning you're not really sure where the story's going, but I do think it does arrive at a place that was very satisfying, and Yeah, just a really lovely film as well. Just a lovely film to watch.
Yeah, I struggle to get into it a bit, but I definitely want to rewatch it because moments towards the end worked, and I want to rewatch the
Yeah,
beginning of the film with that context. And by
yeah.
the way,
Like
it's
it's
in
slow, but I think it's worthy of being that
yeah,
slow pace to set up the
for sure.
characters so we're more invested in them when we get to the more sort of filmy elements to it.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And it's on Netflix in the United States. So
Okay.
check it out,
Yeah, I
guys.
think
It
it's on
is
Netflix in the UK as well. So
okay. Nice, nice. Speaking of slow movies that gave me a visceral reaction, We're All Going to the World's Fair was
okay,
so much my thing. I
fair enough.
loved this movie. I loved this movie. It is a film about a young girl who is going down like internet creepypasta, like horror games online. And she starts to blur the lines and realities between her real life and the world online, and it starts doing some body horror stuff as like she's like pulling like tickets from like her skin and stuff, and she's trying to win the game, and it's about basically just getting sucked into the internet. And I love just films about Gen Z, and specifically films about like the internet and Gen Z. That's like the type of stuff that I want to make. And this was just magnificent. I thought that Anna Cobb, the leading actress who they just found,
Wow.
fantastic
Yeah.
work, some of the best of the year. She's so so good. I mean, and it's also like she balances again comedy and drama so well. Like there's some genuinely haunting moments where she's like working with like her webcam and stuff, and like, but then there's also some great moments where she starts just like randomly dancing and lip syncing to a song. And it's like, and it's in those moments where like it's funny and you don't know whether to like laugh or be horrified, because it's like it's funny just watching this girl like go like crazy and jump around on her bed and sing like a marshmallow song, but then at the same time it's like you're watching this young girl unravel and just like completely fall apart and just like descent into the internet, and then you're watching her body through body horror physically reflect that falling apart and descent. And I think it does. I mean, I could talk about this movie forever, but like I think it does like some really interesting stuff as far as like metaphors with like trans identity and gender identity, and how that like split identity and dual persona, one of my favorite movies of all time, Persona, and like how that like split identity can like work as a metaphor for gender identity and feeling like lost within your own body, and body is more like, I don't know. This is very much my thing. Very much my thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, again, like you, not a massive fan of this one, but again, completely respect the
Stellar
choice.
movie.
My number four, and this is my favorite of the Best Picture nominees, Martin McDonagh. I love him as a director and a writer. Writer primarily, I think it's just screenplays. A great Banshee of Inisherin. I probably should have said that is the name of the film, but you probably already knew that. So yeah, this talk about like a film with a strong sense of time and places definitely has that, and that's conveyed through the great production design, great sort of costume design, and the way it just feels so like you really feel that this place is a living, breathing place, and it is a place that exists. Performances, I think this might be my favorite ensemble of the year. Honestly, I think all the
Sure.
performances from the lead four are really outstanding. Like when Brendan Gleeson, who's really quite good in the role, is probably my least favorite of the four. You know you're doing something right. Like Colin Farrell, excellent. Barry Keoghan, my favorite supporting actor performance of the year. Kerry Condon, up there as one of my favorite supporting actress performances of the year. And I just loved the way it sort of built tension, and it is through the screenplay. Like McDonagh is a very, very clever screenwriter in the way he can build tension, keep escalating things further and further to a point where, like, you get to a point where you're like, hold on, I don't know how we got here, but you're just with it. You're involved with the story, and you're just invested to see what is going to happen to these characters, and you're on edge of your seat the whole time. Like it is a dark comedy, but it's also a thriller to an certain extent, in my opinion. And yeah, it's got great score, great cinematography. It looks really beautiful. Like it makes Ireland look very, very beautiful. And yeah, it's just a really, really great film that is very worthy of Best Picture nomination, very worthy of all the awards attention it is receiving, and one of my favorite screenplays of the decade. So yeah.
Hey, it's the first McDonagh movie I've liked, so there's that.
Yes, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
Uh, okay, my number four is Tar. Um, I mean, just so like from the first moment, like there's the things that time is the thing. time is the essential piece of interpretation. You cannot start with me without me. See, I start the clock. And it's like, that's the entire movie right there. It's so much a movie about time and running out of time and management of time and like trying to create more time as just her entire life is falling apart. I mean, you all know that Kate Blanchett's fantastic. You all know. You all know. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you know Kate Blanchett's fantastic. Role of a lifetime here. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, think
yeah,
it's like one of the best performances of all time. I wholeheartedly believe that.
maybe,
Um,
maybe.
I mean, it was to the point where people legitimately thought that this was a biopic of a real person. Like,
Yeah,
she created Lydia Tarr. She created this person. And I think the themes that it delves into, as far as like separating the art from the artist and cancel culture, and it's really interesting because I go back to during the Juilliard scene when she's teaching the kid, and she keeps on bringing up how like box work is always a question, and he never provides the answer, and that's essentially what the movie's doing within that scene, as far as asking questions to the audience, as far as, well, what do you think? Are you into Bach? Are you into him? Like, it's the movie is asking you questions, and it's giving you points from each side, and it's giving you evidence, and it's giving you the context of who these people are, but it's never providing you an answer. And
yeah,
some people might find that frustrating, but I think it's masterful screenwriting. And just to talk about the screenplay, like, I mean, it's so precise, it's so technical. There was obviously a ridiculous amount of research that went into building this world.
yeah,
And then just again, the way that it works in its themes, I think is just really, really fantastic. Just truly, just one of the most impressive movies I've seen this year. I mean, there's all this stuff with like her hand and how like, she talks about how time is the thing, and then as soon as she breaks her hand, then time starts fracturing, and then we start seeing the film non-linearly, and because now she's out of control. So many themes of control. Like, again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but this movie is so, so, so fantastic. We didn't get the chance to review it on the channel, but like
no,
I absolutely love this. Also, Nomi Marlant is great, as well as Nina Haas, Sophie Crowder. Like, great movie, great
yeah.
movie.
It's definitely one of the cleverest films of the year, alongside for me Decision to Leave, which is my number 3.
Nice.
And since you did a lot of the talking about that film, I'll just sort of zoom into one element that I really think makes it really great, and that is the police procedural element to it. Like, it
Yes.
works incredibly well as just this crime thriller. Like, the way it demonstrates this investigation is interesting. The way it shows Park Hale's character, it presents him as a very interesting sort of character, and again, it's sort of about this, like, he's obsessed with solving this case, and the lengths he takes to go for it and to discover the truth is a very interesting character trait for him. And a lot of the stuff it's doing with phones as well is just like
Oh
interesting.
my
Like, it's
god,
just fun.
yeah.
It's just fun to
The
watch this
text
sort of.
messaging sequences.
Exactly. It's just fun to watch how Park Chan was so able to direct this such an entertaining crime thriller, as well as pack it with all these themes. Like, the mystery is one that's very intriguing, keeps you invested throughout, and yeah, so that is one of the elements for me that really sticks out when I think about this movie. It's that central mystery involving Tang Wei's character, and yeah, like, I do think, as you mentioned, all of the stuff, like the acting's great, cinematography, editing, all of that kind of stuff is amazing. But for me, it had that really core story that was intriguing and compelling throughout that really made it one of the best of the year, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, my number 3. Um, haters, f off, Babylon.
Fair
It
enough.
is fantastic. I love this movie. I adore this movie. I like, again, this is something where I could talk about it forever, and we didn't do a review of it, but like, Margot Robbie and Diego Calva, stunning performances. And like, sure, is the screenplay a little bit messy? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it isn't trying to tell like a complete narrative story with all of these characters. It's just trying to like paint this broad portrait of old Hollywood and the relationships of these characters as the world around them is changing. And I really come back to, and I guess minor spoilers for Babylon, minor
Yeah.
spoilers. But I go back to the monologue with Jean Smart, and she's talking to Brad Pitt, and I mean, this part's in the trailer. She says, this isn't about you; it's bigger than you, and it truly is. Within that monologue, she talks about, 50 years from now, everybody 100 years from now, everybody who's working in Hollywood now will be dead. But when some little kid finds your film and watches you on the big screen, you are momentarily resurrected. And I just think that that is so powerful and speaks so truly to the world of Hollywood and this like love-hate relationship Chazelle has. And I think it's honestly his magnum opus because it truly is like this like culmination of his themes of like legacy and wanting to leave an impact and the struggles that people will go to leave an impact. I
Yeah.
mean, and I don't know. Okay, I'm going to talk about the ending. Spoilers for
Okay.
the ending of Babylon. Skip to Thomas is editing this. You'll put in something on screen. Skip
Argue.
to
Yeah.
skip to the point on screen if you want to skip spoilers for Babylon. But the ending montage. I think that people, and this is going to sound so annoying and pretentious, I don't think people are getting it. um, because
Wow.
I know, but like I see so many people saying that it is a montage about like how like love letter to cinema and how great movies are and how much Giselle loves movies and stuff, and it is quite literally the opposite in my mind. I see it as like a hate letter to how Hollywood works. And I think I would hone in on one very specific thing of when you have all of the films from old Hollywood and then for 3 or 4 seconds, what flashes on the screen is fin de cinema. Cinema ends. And then at that point, it then goes into all of the films with like using like very heavy VFX and technology and stuff. And it's, in all of those scenes, like with like Avatar and The Matrix and Terminator, the actors are completely covered. And it's similar to what happened with the transition to sound because it's basically the actors are getting their autonomy as performers stripped away, and the more technology is added, the less pure the film becomes. And he's just making this point about actors, they want to leave this legacy and they want to have this place. But the more and more technology is introduced, the less actors are going to have this lasting place and identity. You could a kid 100 years from now can watch Avatar and have no clue who these people are. So now they've lost that place in Hollywood history. And I see it as like this like tragic comedy almost about Hollywood and the mistreatment of actors. You look at like all of the different like people of color and the Margot Robbie is a woman, right? And all of these people, even like Brad Pitt, like it beats people down and treats them so terribly just for this like faint hope that they'll be remembered in some way. So, anyways, I loved this movie. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's going to get reevaluated 10 years from now and people will realize what a mistake they made by saying it was a bad movie. I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
genuinely pretty near perfect.
Yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of the ending. I thought it could have been a little more ambiguous given the film itself. I thought it's a bit obvious, like just, oh, we're just gonna have Diego Galva's character sitting in the cinema watching this stuff. I thought there was a more subtle way to do
But I
it.
think it works so well. I mean, I know if you made it that obvious and people still aren't understanding it, I don't know if subtlety would have
Well,
been the choice there.
well, I guess maybe not for the normies in the audience. They needed this. But no, obviously, I mean, all the technical elements are there. Like, I enjoyed it. I really did like
Oh, also
Babylon.
the
I
score.
didn't love it as much as
My
you,
God,
but oh yeah, the score's the best of the year, best of the decade, probably.
best of the century.
Um,
Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, I have to think about that one. But yeah, like I loved it as well. So happy to see it got a place on your list. My number two, and we did record a review for this one, but the file got corrupted or whatever, so it never got released.
We have
And
a
that is
TikTok.
A Quiet Girl.
We
That's
have
A
a
Quiet
TikTok.
Girl. We do have a TikTok. Yes, but The Quiet Girl. Now, this I was very, very delighted to see this get into international feature because it is 100% worthy of it. It
Really
is
great.
small, it is quaint, it is slow, but I don't care because it is such an interesting sort of portrait of family dynamics and how to and someone getting closer to someone whilst also their barriers still existing. And Catherine Kinch is absolutely incredible. And if Frankie Corio didn't give like such a great performance as well, like she'd easily be my favorite child actor of the year. And again, like just one of the best child actors I've seen, like probably ever. Honestly, she is really, really great, and all the performances are great. The performances from the parents as well are excellent, and they do just create such a realistic dynamic between them and the child, and it is all about this sort of relationship, and it's at its core, and it the way it plays itself into moments like the biscuit scene and the way that is sort of unveiled, and yeah, it just
Yeah,
it's so clever and
it's
subtle,
really
and
great.
yeah, like it's slow, but it's worthy of that slowness. Like it's building up this your investment in these characters. Additionally, like the technical elements are also really quite strong. Like the sound design is great
The
because uh,
cinematography is
yeah,
beautiful.
cinematography as well. Like it looks absolutely excellent. And again, another film, really, really, really strong sense of place and time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just really helps you get immersed in it. You're invested in the characters from like word go, and yeah, just a very complex film. A lot's going on, a lot to unpack, a lot to really delve into. And yeah, I really, really love this film. Really love this film.
It's also short. It's also short.
It is nice and short. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. My number two is Everything Ever All at Once.
Great.
I won't talk about it too much. You've already heard both of us talk to death about it. It's a
Yeah,
great movie. Stephanie Shu, I really do think I'm so glad that she got in because, as you mentioned, she truly is the emotional anchor of the film. And I was talking about like Gen Z internet movies before, and I really think that this is maybe the defining one. Like, I think that this is going to be the defining movie for our generation. I wholeheartedly believe
yeah,
that, just
very
like
much so.
from an objective sense. I think that this just is the movie of our generation. And just like, again, I think that you can read so much into it as far as like the fractured feeling of like growing up on the internet, and having all of these, dual identities and feeling like everything is possible all at once, but not knowing really how to process that information. And there's so many different possibilities of how you could ruin your life through that. But then also how you could be, achieve everything. And I think like how it plays into Stephanie Shu just kind of dove in head first for better or for worse. And the parent characters are, more apprehensive and they don't really understand, but then they try, and there's different versions of them that are able to understand, and how different versions of the parents connect to Stephanie Shu. Just really beautiful, just a fantastic film. Like, again, I don't want to talk about it too much. We have a review. We all know about this movie. We all know it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
But really fantastic. And then our
Yeah,
number one
and
we
now
share.
number one will be the same. Yes, indeed,
We'll
because it
say it
is
on
the
three.
best
We'll say it
film.
on three. One,
Yeah,
two, three.
oh, the sun.
Morbius. Oh no, After Sun. Yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
No,
No, I
it's
mean, obviously, like we've done a review for this one as well. We've talked quite extensively about how much we both love this film.
yep,
So glad it got an Oscar nomination. Like, thank
yep,
God it just got one. I would not have expected it to be Paul Mescal really after watching the film, but
yeah,
obviously, like he's just great. Frank Corio,
yeah,
and again, it's a very interesting parent-child dynamic.
yeah,
That's very nuanced, and again, the sort of slow pace allows you to reveal elements, and that is what I think is really, truly spectacular
yeah,
about this film. That really separates it apart from anything else. It's the way it conveys information to you,
yeah,
whether that be through the editing or the cinematography, certain shots like the shot at the beginning that I know you really love about with him smoking a cigarette.
yes.
So all of these technical elements are used to convey information slowly and thoughtfully to the audience, and that is really for me why this film is one that really just sticks with you, one that you want to keep talking about, one you want to keep watching, examining, and yeah, is why it's my favorite film of the year.
It's honestly some of the best visual storytelling I've ever seen. And like,
Yeah,
I'll bring up that shot that you were mentioning, like just that shot in particular where Frankie Corio's character, she's trying to go to sleep, she's trying to go to bed, and Paul Mescal, Callum, he's standing outside and he's smoking and he's doing some of his exercises, and it's like 5 minutes long, and it's just this
yeah,
unbroken take. And you learn everything that you need to know about these characters' relationships as Frankie's watching him, and then lays back down and then peeks her head up again, and then as Callum is like smoking, and then as he like turns and sees Frankie, and then he puts the cigarette down, and then he starts doing his exercises, and it's about how they each so desperately want to connect together, and they so desperately want to make this father-daughter relationship work, but it just feels like both of them are unwilling to give up just a little bit of ground as far as like some of their like connection. And I just think that the way in which, as you said, it conveys that information is just so beautiful. So yeah, really, really love this. Again, we
yeah.
could
I
talk
mean,
about this forever, but just magnificent editing, cinematography. It should be winning everything. I mean, it boils underneath the surface, and then there's that last
exactly.
scene where it's just an explosion of emotion.
Yeah,
Great.
on the surface, it's an emotional drama, and then there's just so many layers to it. You keep digging
Yeah,
down, you keep finding more stuff. It turns into a film about memories, and then
yeah,
about all of this kind of stuff, and all of the themes are subtly conveyed and thoughtfully
Genuinely one of
conveyed.
the greatest films of all time. I think genuinely maybe the best
Genuinely,
directorial debut of all time.
yeah, very much, very potentially,
Yeah,
yeah. Like
perfect movie.
obviously,
Perfect movie.
obviously.
Anyways, that's our top 10.
It is.
We'll put the lists up on screen again, probably. Thomas will, since he's editing.
I would do.
But lists will be up on screen again. But these are our top 10 of the year. It's a bit late, but I think that we each have lists that we're happy with. So
We did.
I hope
We
you
did.
guys enjoyed. You can stick around for more awards content if you'd like. Don't have to. Completely up to you. But appreciate you guys for watching. Until next time,
Yeah.
stay safe, everybody. Goodbye, and tell us what your top 10 of the year
Yeah.
is.
Get that engagement
Yay!
in.
Interaction.